Yeah, back on the SportsMax zone. This Saturday's race day at Jamaica's Caymanas Park has been scrapped due to a standoff between stakeholders and race promoters. Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, SVREL. At a heated stakeholders meeting held at Caymanas Park on Tuesday, owners, trainers and grooms aired their disappointment in the increase of 27 million Jamaican dollars, that's approximately US 174,842, offered by SVREL for purse allocations.
It currently costs owners $2.19 billion to bring their horses to perform at Caymanas Park Limited. The grooms have just negotiated a more than reasonable increase, which is going to cost us another $92 million. To offer us $27 million is the most impertinent. What we're saying today is that unless we get at least $1.2 billion as a purse money, we cannot continue to nominate our horses. If you can't find it in your revenue, you have to go to the government and lobby the government to find some way of doing some extra taxation on some other aspect of your business to pay that money. We cannot continue to operate on this basis. We cannot, and we will not continue.
Yeah, Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association executive Howard Hamilton there, and former champion owner himself. Meanwhile, the stakeholders are accusing SVREL of being dishonest in reporting their earnings. According to trainers, SVREL has reported that last year's total earnings was $5.3 billion. However, they said based on the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission report, the actual earnings was $6.2 billion. Now, last year, SVREL and key industry owners and trainers reached an agreement that purses will be 49% of gross gaming revenue on live racing. Based on that agreement, the stakeholders are urging SVREL to provide the appropriate increase based on the earnings stated by the regulatory body, the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission, BGLC.
As we are here today and we know we are really in a restive situation, because we need a pay increase and we need it now. Not yesterday, not the other day, we need it like immediately. With all due respect, I would support Mr. Kumi and say, we might give them, what offer can you give us? Because that's what all of us come here to hear. No matter the quarrel and the this and the that, we come here to hear a figure peacefully, nicely, because we are not waiting on no purse increase for our increase. But every owner, I mean, Mr. Smell, have a good meeting. And the good meeting we have, yes, you deserve an increase, but we are waiting for the purse. I talk to a lot of owners, oh yes, you well deserve it, but we are waiting for the purse. We can't wait for the purse now, so we want a figure and just make all of us go home. You not get nothing, or you get something. Make we know. Because we now wait another week for our increase. Have a nice day.
Yes, that's President of the Grooms Association, Fabian White. Executive Director of the BGLC, Vitus Evans, spoke at Tuesday's meeting and offered an explanation as to how the two figures, 5.3 billion and 6.2 billion, could have been conflated, but it didn't change the disgruntled stakeholders' posture. SVREL has since issued a statement saying it is willing to have discussions with the stakeholders in order to resume live racing as soon as possible. The statement in part reads, Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, operators of Caymanas Park, wishes to advise all stakeholders and fans of horse racing that it is open for dialogue and stands ready to work with owners and trainers to have the earliest resumption of live racing. Since assuming oversight of Caymanas Park, SVREL has made significant investments and undertaken extensive measures to improve the racing product and to develop a sustainable industry. Joining us to discuss this further is Solomon Sharp, the chairman of SVREL. Sola, great to have you on the SportsMax Zone to get to the bottom of this story. I know stories like these can be pretty fluid. So what we have presented so far is the position as we understand it, let's say in the last 3 or 4 hours. Can you say if anything has changed right now at 5 o'clock Jamaica time, 5:01 exactly?
Nothing has changed.
Your release that you issued a few hours ago made it clear that you're open for dialogue, because the dialogue pretty much ended on Tuesday, Solomon, with the stakeholders walking out on the meeting. How disappointing was that for you?
It's part of life. It's very disappointing. There was a lot of rumors and innuendos that were going on over the weekend. I got calls from earlier Saturday said that there was going to be no nomination on Tuesday. We didn't react to that. We had somewhat of a town hall meeting yesterday, and I expected it to be explosive. We had some passionate people down at Caymanas Park. I probably saw worse during COVID, but during COVID, it was a whole different scenario. In this scenario, we worked hard last year in creating a formula of what we would like to be a win-win situation. Caymanas Park is going in the right direction, but there are some persons, namely Howard Hamilton, that he didn't personally sign that agreement last year, and we know from behind the scenes that he has never been in agreement, and he keeps wanting to change and move the goalposts. At one point, he was stepping down from Toba. The next thing we know, he's still the president. Now, we have no problem working with Howard or anyone, but if you sign on to a deed that says it's 49% of the GGR, then let's work with 49% of the GGR and keep moving. They know these figures from April, when there was the figures being contested about 6.2. Somebody plugged this figure out. We went to the back end. We spoke to the betting, gaming, and lotteries. Part of this figure, based on how we pay taxes on a weekly basis. So part of this figure was a carryover between 2021 and 2022. Nobody acknowledged that, but they've acknowledged that behind closed doors. And then for the rest of the $680 million, nobody was hiding these figures, so it's reported. If you listen to Mr. Evans, he didn't play all of his clip. He said it's plausible that the BGLC, etc., will owe SVEREL tax returns based on this, because we paid taxes on our gross revenues. So we would have been paying taxes on monies generated overseas. We explained further to the horsemen that the $680 million was never part of the arrangement, and it was $680 million, well, converted from US and Canadian dollars to Jamaican dollars, that was wagered overseas. The net effect of that is 3%, or $19-point-something million. So we stood fast to the whole $5.3 million. This is properly audited by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I think maybe we have moved a little fast. So some persons in the industry and that play are some being mischievous and some slowing it down and acting as if they didn't remember what they signed on to. Mr. Smelly signed that document. Mr. McLean signed that document. We, throughout the entire period, painted a picture for them of what the vision for Caymanas Park would be. And I mean, it's kind of sad that we're at this impasse now. We should be at this impasse when that overseas money, instead of being $600 million, is $6-point-something billion. So, very disappointing. We have all worked hard together. I want to say we have all worked hard. I'm not taking praises for my team at SVEREL. The horsemen put in their work and nominate their horses. We do need more numbers so we can create a better picture. But you can't want to take up your marbles at this point of the game because 27 million didn't suit you. So this is just where we are, and we're expecting that maybe some common sense will prevail somewhere along the line. Some kind of other dialogue will take place. As you quite rightfully stated, they walked out on the conversation. And it could have gone a lot better and it could have gone a lot different, but it is what it is. We will continue to consolidate. And as we said, we didn't make all this investment to not be active, to not support the industry. We have shown that we're solidly behind the industry. You would have seen the hard work done by both parties during 2020 to bring back racing from COVID. And we have had a steady stream, and at a point when racing is going in the right direction, I have to ask myself, what exactly is at play? Who's behind the scenes, pulling the strings, and what are their objectives? So that's most unfortunate.
I think we have an issue here, Solomon, with trust, because usually in a standoff like this, one party, as is the case now, is displaying characteristics of not trusting what SVEREL is saying. You just suggested that you have been as open as you can be in explaining the funds as they are and the way the 6.2 billion and the 5.3 billion could have been misunderstood. Who makes the next move? Because your press release just stated that, you know, you're open to dialogue, but at the moment, you know, you're in your corner just saying that. The stakeholders are obviously upset. Times are hard, Solomon, and I'm sure you know that. And a lot of people in the racing industry are suffering to make ends meet. So we understand they're being disgruntled. But if we have to have, or we are to have, a happy ending to this story, someone has to move.
Well, based on you reading our script, it shows you that we are ready to move. We have always been ready to move. We told you that we had some plans during COVID. We told you what we were going to do. We told you, and everything that we've said that we're going to do is happening. I got a text earlier from a friend of mine related to another sport, and he says he feels my pain because it seems to be commonplace with every sporting organization in Jamaica. There's always a disagreement between the participants and the organizers or the promoters. So, as you said, we stand behind the 5.2 or 5.3 billion, and we're ready to talk. We're ready to keep the industry moving and to move forward.
May not be grasping the essence of this story here, because you know, your figure that you've put out there at 5.3 billion, there was another figure put out at 6.2 billion, and the stakeholders are suggesting that they feel that they're being misled by the figure that SVEREL is working with, and as a result trying to justify how much of a purse increase that you can actually afford.
Lance, the stakeholders, we're just awaiting confirmation. They have said to us months now that they're going to bring us documentation to fully support the 6.2. They are yet to bring such documentation. Everything that has been asked of us from the BJLC, we have submitted same. Again, Mr. Evans spoke about when it's plausible that our figure is correct, and there may be in fact a refund to be given to SVEREL. So I think when it's all said and done, our figure is audited by PricewaterhouseCoopers. I think when it's all said and done, we'll realize that we're really at $5.3 billion. And
billion.
5.3 billion, yes?
Yes.
We're at $5.3 billion, and we signed off on 49% of the GGR, which is simply put $5.3 billion minus the payouts. Our average payout is 72%, and then the balance of that is what is called a GGR, and then you do 49% of the GGR, and you see what the annual purses should be. We've clearly illustrated from April what our first budget would have been based on the GGR calculations, and it has been flatly refuted, and there's a dispute over the difference between what they say as 6.2 versus 5.3, but you know, what happens when it's verified that it's $5.3 billion? How do we move from here? So I got great pains in many of meetings behind closed doors and otherwise to clearly articulate a vision, to clearly articulate where we're going. And I think, you know, not asking for credit, but I know that we have worked at giving, at being very transparent and giving all the figures whenever asked of us by the respective people.
Yeah, and Solomon, I know when people are angry, they say many things. One of the clips that we just heard, somebody spoke about the option of going to the government. Is that an actual option?
We have no issue with going to the government. we have told the stakeholders before that, we work within certain confines. We pay a lease at Caymanas Park. We pay X amount of taxes as we generate the funds. And when I said we that generate the funds, it's us and the horsemen that generate the funds. So, but certainly it's not just for us to go to the government. I think Mr. Hamilton erred when he said that he is ordering me to go to the government. It's industries that usually go to the government to say, hey, this is the current situation. And if we were to do X, it could deliver this result or that result, and some more positive results. So we have no issue having dialogue with anybody, government, and anyone. But we have signed to a deed. There are persons on the other team that probably from day one didn't agree with the formula, didn't agree with how it was constructed. And I think they called me disingenuous yesterday, but I won't be calling any names or get into the name calling. But I think the other team needs to look at what they signed off on, agree with what they signed off on, and let's move forward.
In one of your responses, you spoke about the investment made at Caymanas Park. We all know horse racing generates a lot of revenue. Talk to me about the financial hit if this continues, because there'll be no racing this weekend if it continues and you don't come to some sort of compromise. No money will be made.
Well, it's hurting all of us. There's a there on a weekend like this, we could have generated about $110 million, give or take, maybe more. There's a Regular 6 payout on Sunday, so that could have gone to $120, $130 million. So there's going to be a big financial hit on the company. We have to look on some potential cost-containing measures. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want anybody to lose out, any revenues and staff or anything. In addition to that, we would have paid out about $15 million in purses to horsemen. So come next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, there won't be any purses to be paid out to the horsemen. So we know that the fallouts and what the fallouts will be. Some persons would have signed on to it. There's a silent majority, I'm told, based on a text message I was got, that are not in agreement, but I guess maybe nobody wants to break the so-called picket line. So the fallout will be great in an industry that is hurting globally, and we are taking all the steps. We're following the global trends of what it takes to keep this sport up and running, and creating the cookie cutter situations for what works in Jamaica and what doesn't work in Jamaica. Yeah,
we've got to leave it here though, Solomon, but I have one quick question that you can answer in 15 seconds if you can. Is racing a viable industry? We see Trinidad and Tobago's racing facing a shutdown now because of finances. I have seen many racetracks in North America close down unless they have a casino that beefs up the income. Is racing a viable industry in the Caribbean?
Racing can be a very viable industry in Jamaica, but we have to look at the tenets. We have to look at the parameters in which we operate under. You have said about those North American settings. We don't have casinos here, but there's other creative ways for us to look at.
Yes.
I've suggested a lot of these to the stakeholders behind the scenes. Unfortunately, they think it's just my work alone. I've done the work. I've set the templates. But it's time for the industry to wake up.
Yes.
And under some of this work. And I said yesterday, if we don't change, you'll die. And as a business, if we don't grow, we'll die. So
yeah. But when you said that, some voice in the audience said we are already dying. So it's six of one and half dozen of the other. I guess coming from the stakeholders. But Solomon, we
resilient, and we came out of COVID stronger.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things behind the scenes, Lance. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they are. I have some suspicions, but there are some people behind the scenes pulling the strings that don't want this product to move forward, and it's most unfortunate.
Yeah, okay, well, we're going to leave it there. No one wants to see racing shut down in Caymanas Park. It should be the sport of kings. Solomon, thanks for talking to us here, trying to shed some more light on this impasse. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.